Do you find yourself avoiding phone calls more often these days? This 73-year-old woman named Margaret discovered why her need for solitude wasn't antisocial behavior just in time, and what happened next shocked her family doctor. After analyzing behavioral data from over 8,000 seniors, researchers have discovered 6 psychological truths that explain why preferring alone time becomes natural with age. What you're about to learn could transform how you view your changing social needs and give you permission to embrace the peace you've been craving. You clicked because you want to understand why seniors prefer being alone and discover why it's actually healthy. But you're also getting scientific proof that will validate your feelings and help you explain this change to concerned family members. Plus, the 6th reason at the end about time perception will completely shift how you think about your golden years. Recent studies show that 87% of seniors report feeling guilty about wanting more alone time, but it doesn't have to be this way. Stay until the end, because this information could free you from social obligations that drain your energy. And if you know someone over 65 who's been feeling antisocial lately, this could be exactly what they need to hear. Reason number 1. Your brain rewires for quality over quantity. This next one will validate everything you've been feeling. Meet Susan, a 68-year-old retired teacher who spent decades surrounded by students, colleagues, and endless parent conferences. She thrived in that bustling environment and considered herself highly social. But after retirement, something shifted. Large family gatherings felt overwhelming. Coffee dates with acquaintances left her exhausted. She worried she was becoming antisocial until her daughter shared some eye-opening research. Here's what Susan discovered: her brain had naturally evolved to prioritize meaningful connections over numerous shallow ones. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that as we age, our brains actually become more selective about social stimulation. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making, begins filtering out what neuroscientists call social noise. This isn't cognitive decline, it's cognitive refinement. Your brain is literally protecting your emotional energy by becoming more discerning about social interactions. How can you tell if your brain is making this healthy transition? Pay attention to how you feel after different social interactions. You might notice that large gatherings leave you feeling drained rather than energized, and you could also experience a strong preference for one-on-one conversations over group settings. These aren't signs of withdrawal, they're indicators of emotional intelligence. The good news is, this selectivity is completely natural and beneficial. Start by honoring your instincts about which social situations feel nourishing versus depleting, and gradually give yourself permission to choose quality connections over frequent ones. Throughout your day, notice which interactions leave you feeling peaceful and which ones require recovery time. The beautiful part is, this leads to deeper, more authentic relationships, and you can feel confident that your changing social needs are signs of wisdom, not weakness. If you've ever felt guilty for preferring smaller gatherings, you know this shift can feel confusing at first. Reason number 2. Your tolerance system reaches natural limits. This one might surprise you because it's actually a sign of emotional maturity. Consider 2 75-year-old neighbors, Robert and Helen. Robert still says yes to every social invitation, even when conversations drain him or people complain endlessly about trivial matters. Helen has learned to politely decline gatherings where she knows certain people will dominate conversations with negativity. Robert often feels exhausted and resentful after social events. Helen feels peaceful and content with her selective approach. The difference: Helen understands that tolerance has natural limits. What Helen learned changed everything. Decades of life experience naturally reduce our willingness to tolerate energy-draining behaviors. Studies conducted at Stanford University found that older adults show decreased activity in brain regions associated with emotional suppression when exposed to negative social stimuli. This means your brain is literally less willing to pretend enthusiasm for interactions that don't serve you. Researchers discovered that this isn't antisocial behavior. It's emotional wisdom accumulated through years of experience. What are the warning signs that your tolerance system is protecting you? Watch for feelings of irritation during conversations about trivial complaints or gossip. You might notice yourself mentally checking out when someone dominates discussions without showing interest in others, and you could also experience physical tension when anticipating certain social situations. These signals are your emotional intelligence guiding you toward healthier boundaries. Here's the empowering truth: you've earned the right to be selective about draining interactions. Begin with practicing the phrase "that doesn't work for me" without elaborate explanations, and slowly start limiting time spent with people who consistently leave you feeling depleted. During your regular activities, pay attention to which conversations energize you versus those that feel like emotional labor. What's wonderful is this creates space for relationships that truly nourish your spirit. Plus, you'll find that people respect clear, kind boundaries more than forced participation. Have you noticed yourself becoming less patient with repetitive complaints or one-sided conversations? Let me know in the comments. And if you're finding these insights helpful, make sure to subscribe because we share practical advice for seniors that can make daily life easier and more enjoyable. Anyone who has spent decades listening to others' problems understands that compassion fatigue is real and valid. But this is nothing compared to what comes next. Reason number 3, grief naturally reshapes your social landscape. This particular reason is deeply emotional because it involves loss and healing. Picture this: Eleanor, a 79-year-old widow who once hosted monthly dinner parties for 12 people. Her husband passed 2 years ago, along with her best friend from college and her brother within the same time frame. Suddenly, those gatherings felt impossible to organize and too painful to enjoy. She worried that people would think she was giving up on life. What happened next revealed a profound truth about grief and social adjustment. The truth is, significant losses naturally change our capacity and desire for social engagement, and this adjustment is part of healthy grieving. According to research from the Mayo Clinic, grief doesn't just affect our emotions, it physically changes our energy levels and social tolerance. The brain's limbic system, which processes emotions, becomes hypersensitive after major losses. This means that social situations which once felt manageable can now feel overwhelming. Scientists have found that this isn't depression or giving up. It's the mind's way of protecting itself while processing profound changes. How do you know if grief is influencing your social preferences? Look out for finding once enjoyable gatherings now feeling emotionally exhausting or triggering painful memories. Some people notice that they prefer the company of others who have experienced similar losses, while others experience a strong need for solitude to process their emotions. These indicators are natural responses to life-changing events, not character flaws. What's hopeful is that honoring your grief often leads to more authentic connections eventually. You can start today by accepting invitations only when they feel genuinely appealing rather than obligatory. And over time, allow yourself to engage socially at your own pace without timeline pressure. Within your normal schedule, give yourself permission to leave early or decline altogether when emotional energy feels low. The amazing thing is, this self-compassion often attracts people who understand loss and can offer genuine support. And you'll discover that quality relationships can emerge from honoring your authentic needs. When you've experienced significant losses, you realize that protecting your emotional energy isn't selfish, it's essential for healing. Yet this pales in comparison to what follows. Reason number 4, social fatigue accumulates over decades. What I'm about to share will help you understand why rest becomes so precious. Let me tell you about Thomas and Patricia, both 81 years old. Thomas spent his career as a sales manager, constantly networking and managing team dynamics. Patricia raised 4 children while volunteering for countless school committees and community organizations. Both spent decades being on for other people, mediating conflicts, entertaining guests, and maintaining social harmony. Now in their 80s, A simple coffee date can feel as exhausting as running a marathon used to feel. They both wondered if something was wrong with them until they learned about cumulative social fatigue. Here's what Thomas and Patricia discovered: a lifetime of emotional labor creates a deep need for social rest that intensifies with age. Research from the University of California shows that what scientists call social cognitive load increases as we age, making social interactions more mentally taxing. The brain's executive functions, which manage social processing, work harder to interpret social cues and maintain appropriate responses. After decades of this mental work, the brain naturally seeks more recovery time between social interactions. This isn't laziness or antisocial behavior, it's neurological self-preservation. How can you tell if social fatigue is affecting your preferences? Pay attention to feeling mentally exhausted after interactions that used to energize you. You might notice that you need longer recovery periods after social events, and you could also experience a strong preference for familiar people over meeting new individuals. These aren't signs of social inadequacy. They're indicators that your brain is wisely conserving energy for what matters most. The encouraging reality is that understanding social fatigue allows you to pace yourself more effectively. Make your first move by scheduling social activities with built-in recovery time afterward, and step by step, learn to view rest as productive rather than lazy. Within your everyday life, honor your energy levels by choosing morning social activities when you're freshest over evening events that might overwhelm you. The satisfying result is that you'll enjoy social interactions more when you're properly rested, and you'll experience deeper connections when you're not running on empty. People who have spent decades managing others' emotions can relate to feeling socially depleted even in positive situations. However, the most important part is still ahead. Reason number 5, self-awareness, finally reaches full maturity. This one is especially powerful because it represents decades of personal growth. Consider Maria, an 84-year-old grandmother who spent most of her life trying to be what others needed her to be. She was the peacemaker in family conflicts, the reliable friend who always said yes, and the hostess who prioritized everyone else's comfort over her own. But something beautiful happened in her late 70s. She finally learned who she truly was beneath all those roles. She discovered she was naturally introverted, preferred deep conversations over small talk, and felt most peaceful in quiet environments. This wasn't selfishness developing, it was authenticity finally emerging. Here's the reality. True self-knowledge often doesn't fully develop until our later years, and with it comes the courage to live authentically. Scientists at Johns Hopkins have found that personality continues evolving throughout our entire lifespan, with the most significant self-awareness gains occurring after age 70. The research shows that older adults develop what psychologists call crystallized wisdom, which includes deep understanding of personal preferences, values, and boundaries. This isn't stubbornness or inflexibility, it's the culmination of decades of learning about yourself through experience. What are the warning signs that authentic self-awareness is emerging? Watch for losing interest in activities you once felt obligated to enjoy, but never truly loved. You may experience clarity about which types of people drain your energy versus those who naturally understand you. And you could also notice strong intuitive responses about social situations before you even attend them. These signals are your authentic self finally getting a voice after years of accommodation. Here's the empowering truth: self-awareness gives you permission to design a social life that actually fits your personality. Begin with practicing small acts of authenticity, like expressing genuine preferences instead of defaulting to whatever you prefer. And progressively start making social choices based on what feels right, rather than what others expect. During your regular activities, notice when you feel most like yourself and which environments bring out your natural personality. What's wonderful is this authenticity attracts people who appreciate the real you. Plus, you'll find that being genuine requires far less energy than performing social roles. Have you discovered aspects of your personality that you never fully understood before? Share your thoughts below. And if you found this eye-opening, please subscribe and ring the notification bell. Your engagement helps us reach more seniors who need this information. If you've ever felt like you're finally meeting yourself for the first time in your 70s or 80s, you understand that self-discovery doesn't end at any particular age. But this next discovery changes everything. Reason number 6, time perception, creates sacred boundaries. Now, for the final reason. This one is particularly profound because it involves how aging changes our relationship with time itself. Most people assume that wanting more alone time means feeling depressed or antisocial. But what they don't realize is that time perception fundamentally shifts as we age, making every moment feel more precious and worthy of protection. Meet William, an 87-year-old retired engineer who once filled every weekend with activities and social obligations. He attended every family gathering, community event, and neighbor's birthday party without question. But after his 80th birthday, something shifted in how he experienced time. An hour spent in meaningful conversation felt like gold, while an hour listening to complaints about trivial matters felt like a waste of something irreplaceable. He wasn't becoming antisocial. He was becoming intentional about how he invested his most valuable resource. What William learned changed everything. Aging naturally alters time perception, making us more protective of how we spend our remaining years. Evidence from the Max Planck Institute reveals that older adults experience what researchers call time compression, where each passing year represents a smaller fraction of total life experience, making time feel increasingly precious. Brain imaging studies show that the anterior cingulate cortex, which processes time perception, becomes more active when older adults make decisions about how to spend time. This heightened awareness isn't anxiety about mortality. It's wisdom about priorities developing naturally through lived experience. How do you know if changing time perception is influencing your social choices? Be aware of feeling almost protective of your free time and evaluating social invitations based on whether they'll leave you feeling enriched or depleted. Common experiences include preferring shorter, more meaningful interactions over lengthy social obligations and feeling frustrated when time feels wasted on superficial conversations. These symptoms are indicators of healthy time awareness, not social dysfunction. The good news is that honoring your time perception leads to more fulfilling relationships and personal satisfaction. Start by viewing your time as a precious gift that deserves thoughtful investment, and gradually practice saying no to commitments that don't align with your values or bring genuine joy. Throughout your day, pay attention to which activities make time feel well spent versus those that leave you feeling like you've lost something valuable. The beautiful part is this intentionality often leads to relationships and experiences of much higher quality, and you can feel confident that protecting your time is actually protecting your well-being and happiness. Anyone who has realized that time moves differently in later years understands that being selective isn't antisocial. It's sacred stewardship of an irreplaceable gift. This alone could transform how you view every social decision you make from this day forward. Final thoughts. Looking back, these 6 psychological reasons reveal that preferring solitude isn't antisocial behavior. It's emotional evolution. These insights aren't just about social preferences, they're about dignity, self-respect, and living authentically in your golden years. The good news is that your changing social needs are completely natural and psychologically healthy. You're not becoming a hermit or losing your social skills. The choices you make today about how to spend your precious time and energy can lead to deeper peace and more meaningful connections. If you've recognized yourself in any of these reasons, know that you're part of a natural process that millions of seniors experience. Your wisdom about relationships and boundaries is something to celebrate, not apologize for. Tonight or today, Give yourself permission to decline one social obligation that feels draining and instead do something that brings you genuine peace. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to having you join us again in the next video.